Hey, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. We're working in our summer garden, getting it cleared out, making room for fall. Okay, well, everything has been conspiring against me in terms of having time to get out and work in the garden. And that's okay, that's life, that's how things happen. But I need to get my winter garden in. I don't even have seeds started and it's almost October. That's not good. Normally I want to have my plants in the ground in the first month of October as seedlings, but we're going to be late this year. Hey, that's okay. You know, better to start a garden and grow, and if you don't have enough time to get a crop, well, at least you tried. And I can show you what I'm doing to transition. So all my summer crops have been out there growing, lots of weeds out there, and I'm going to go out and show you how I do it with a raised bed that is mostly no-till. I don't like to till and turn if I don't have to. I'm not opposed to it. Sometimes that's appropriate. But I have so many weed seeds and things down in there that if I turn my soil, I'm going to bring up a whole new batch of seeds. And I don't want to do that. So the way I do it is I take my plants out first. Then I pull all the weeds that are big weeds, and then I rake back my mulch. Now usually I reuse my mulch because I use oak leaves as mulch. Oak leaves and grass clippings. Well, the grass clippings break down quickly, but oak leaves take 3 or 4 years to break down. And some of my oak leaves are just about at the end of their life, so I'm going to pull all that mulch off and put it in the compost bin. But if I find any mulch that looks good, any oak leaves that look like they might last me another year and they're not covered in a bunch of weeds, then I'm going to save that and recycle that. So here are my lima beans. I'm taking them down, taking this trellis off. I was going to keep them, but changed my mind. But that's a lot of biomass, and so I had to pull all this stuff out along with its trellis material and drag them over the other side of the yard. Taking out the cowpeas as well. Phoebe is very interested in this because there have been rats present. Okay, so I've gone in now with my hands and cleared out most of the stuff that was there. Took out my eggplants, I took out my lima beans, which I thought I might keep for the fall, but no, I need this space and I need to treat each bed, you know, as a whole entity. That's just how I feel. So took it out, and you can see it right there. Took out my cowpeas, just pulled them up at the roots, left most of the roots down below, pulled them up at the surface. Those roots will compost in place. We're gonna rake off the mulch, put it on a tarp, flame weed the whole thing, and then resurface it with a rake and get nice and loose so that we can plant our seeds. And then I'm going to take care of this bed right here as well. Maybe tonight, it's real nice, maybe tomorrow. We got a great week. It feels like fall and we're happy to be working in the garden again. Here my hoop house is being taken down. This has been up for at least a year, just a little over a year. It stood up quite well to the elements, and if you like the idea of a hoop house, it's very versatile. I've got a video on how we constructed this. But Sam and I are just clearing out the beds and getting it ready. Part of my challenge in fall gardening is I can't compost a lot of the biomass I pull out of here. And the reason I can't compost that is it's got a lot of weed seeds in it. A whole lot of morning glory. All those morning glory vines had grown up in my cowpeas, all in my lima beans, and they're very prolific, and if they get established anywhere, well, you can't get rid of them. And so I can't compost that stuff. It's got tons of morning glory in it, so I'm gonna let it compost in place under my trees over here and feed those trees, and you know, out of the way where I don't have to worry. Morning glories are nice, actually. I like them. They look pretty, they cover things nicely, they have beautiful flowers, but I don't need them in my garden. They can be over there, so I'm going to put them all over there and let them just decompose. Well, we're about back to a blank canvas on some of these beds. We have to clear out that bed, and we'll be ready to do our flame weeding. And that's going to take a bit of work. That's a lot of biomass over there, and there's a bamboo trellis in there. I'll take that out in big chunks. But yeah. Look at this soil we have underneath here. This is some good soil. Nice and loamy and loose. It doesn't get better than that. Lots of organic material. The only question about this soil will be its mineral content. And so I'm gonna have some soil tests done. I'm not gonna do it for my fall garden, but I am gonna test this soil and have a good estimation of what's in here mineral wise. I'm not so concerned about the basics that are in here. The basics that are in here are always kept quite nice because of the way I garden. Mostly no-till, but not always no-till. But we need to check the mineralization here. This is about a 6 to 7 year old bed. I guess it's a 6-year-old bed now, and it's had a lot of crops rotate through here. So we're going to see about the mineralization of this bed and what we need to do to make sure that it is a healthy bunch of soil. You can see as we've come through here, we haven't really disturbed the soil too much. And we've walked on it a little bit, but we've basically pulled up all the cowpeas at their roots, and there's a lot of roots down in there still, and these roots will compost in place. What I will do when I come back with the flame weeder is take care of all this kind of stuff right here, all this Bermuda grass and these various weeds that like to grow in areas that I don't really tend too much, like these holes, and all the areas where they take hold in the midst of my crop. There's some right there, those little grasses. And the flame weeding will serve to knock those back long enough to get a crop established. And then some of these weeds are seasonal. The trumpet vine, or well, it's morning glory that grows in through here. We try to pull the roots out where we can of that stuff, but that comes back every summer about this time, and there's not much you can do about it, but we try to get that as well. But for a fall garden, that won't be a big problem because it's generally a late summer weed, and as we flame weed, we'll knock back any remainders of those, and as the temperatures cool down, they won't be a problem. All right, so that's the next big issue, the big project. So I'm clearing off the bed. A lot of this is mulch that's ready for the compost bin. So we're just gonna rake this stuff up and cart it away and put it in my second compost bin. Now, while I was putting this in here, my dog was busy after something, and you'll see what that something is in just a moment there. Yeah, we've got some vermin. So you can see how much lower my extension to my raised bed is compared to the rest of the garden. From about right there over, that was new this past year. In fact, that was I had trouble filling that, but yeah, we'll come and top it off. And over here, this little section right here was an extension as well. But this is about what it looks like when you get all the mulch raked back. And most of that mulch has been on there for 2 years now, so it's going to the compost pile. But this little batch right here, this is not sufficiently broken down to go to the compost pile, and this bed wasn't as weedy, so I'm going to save that mixed with grass clippings, and that will become my mulch. Some more mulch for this year. I'm not going to have enough mulch for my oak trees until the spring. Okay, so now we're going to begin flame weeding. The concept of flame weeding is that we're killing off weeds, weed seeds especially, that are near the surface. Now, you won't kill off weed seeds that are dormant beneath the surface. You just have to deal with those and pull them as they come up. But the idea is that if you're not going to till the soil, it's helpful to kill off everything on top of the soil. And some people will say, well, aren't you harming soil life and biology? Only in the top ½ inch of the soil, and it recovers really quickly. It's a crazy web of life down there, and if we're not tilling, we're not destroying much. We are going to loosen the soil and maybe turn some soil and till in certain areas, like where I'm going to plant carrots. I'm not a strict no-till person, but I like to disturb the soil as little as possible. And again, that's to preserve the life in the soil. It's to not bring up more seeds. That's my main concern. The life in the soil is going to recover from whatever you do to it, even if you go and till up with a tractor. The bacterial life, I mean, it's crazy. It bounces back in a day or two. But I don't want to bring up a bunch of seeds, weed seeds, and so the flame weeder helps with that. It's not foolproof, but it certainly is a help. And a lot of people think that flame weeding is extreme. Well, actually, it's really natural. You're burning the stuff on the ground, and you know, natives and people who have been farming for years have done that. They go and just set fire to an area, and you've got ash being added to the soil, which is occasionally helpful in moderate quantities. And so flame weeding is actually beneficial in my context, and maybe in yours if you have a raised bed. So I'm using this propane flame weeder. It's a real simple device hooked up to a propane tank, and I usually get an entire year and maybe even a year and a half from a single propane can. And so we're going to start flame weeding. When you flame weed, if you've got these holes in your cinder blocks, please check them first. Go through and check them for critters. You got lizards and geckos and toads and snakes, and we had a snake here today that escaped with its life just in time. But yeah, go through and check your holes. Now the idea was to protect this pepper plant because I like these peppers, but you know, you can't hardly get around a pepper plant with the flame weeder or any kind of plant without doing some damage. And you can see that the effectiveness of the flame weeder, you don't even have to burn the plant up. The flame just destroys the cell wall structure and bursts all the cell walls, and the plant dies. And you can see down here, these were once nice thriving leaves, but as the flame got a little too close, yeah, you can see what happened. So we'll see if this one recovers. I think it will. We're going to lose some of the lower leaves, but for the most part, I think this pepper plant will pull through. It's always a good idea to go around with your water hose and make sure you don't have any smoldering fires or embers, and gives you good peace of mind. And so that's what I'm going to do next. You can see Phoebe has not lost her desire to protect me from the water hose. Gardening with corgis. Now, I could go in and plant my seeds right into that soil and not even worry about loosening it up. It's fairly loose to begin with, and maybe we'll do that for some of our direct seeding. Some of it I'm going to come in and fork a little bit. But for now, that's enough work in this garden. So there we have it. We have reconditioned our garden. We have pulled out the summer crop. We've pulled out all the weeds. We've flame weeded. And we're ready for our next step, which is sowing seeds. But before we sow seeds, we're gonna maybe put some compost in here. We're gonna resurface with a rake just to smooth it out, break it up a bit. And where we need to level off, like where I'm standing, we'll level it off with some soil or some compost. That's the next step. That'll be another video. But for now, that's how I transition from season to season. So I really thank you for joining me. Hey, I'm so humbled that you've helped me this year grow from, you know, 28,000 subscribers almost to 78,000 subscribers. And I'm really looking forward next spring hitting that 100 grand. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. It's so humbling to be able to share my garden with you and to hear from you all in the comments section. Thank you so much for being part of the community here at Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Like our videos, please share them on Facebook and social media. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and we will talk to you next time. Happy gardening. Bye-bye.